I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are taking a deep dive into the mystical seas of storytelling with Jillian Boyd-Bowie's captivating sequel, Buai, Dolphin People. Journey back to the untouched islands of the Torres Strait, where ancient charms and kinship weaves together a narrative as deep and as mysterious as the ocean itself. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Prime 7 Media for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and, more importantly, purchasing her wonderful books. The link is below this interview. Jillian, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Hi, Mr. Crawford. Yes, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. I loved your book. Why don't we tell the folks at home the big picture, what your story is about?
The story, Buai, which means dolphin people in our native tongue called Meriamir. So it's actually a sequel to the first story, another story I published back in 2013. When I finished that first book in 2013, I could see the story continuing, and I thought I must write a sequel to this. So Buai, Dolphin People is about a pre-colonization story about a little family, a mother named Mar, which means stormbird in our language, and her son Tam and Lusik, and the story is about them fleeing the island of Egur, where they first lived in the first book. They fled that island because of famine that struck there. And after their father disappeared, he advised, before he disappeared, he advised Mar that if anything ever happens to me, I want you to pack the children up and take them to travel east until the sun sets the next day, and there you will find your new home. So that's exactly what Mar did, and she named her new home Ekiam, which in our language means to awaken, because when she saw that island in front of her, she knew this was the island that her husband dreamt about. So Buai is about her growing the new tribe, Dolphin People, because Mar's totem is a dolphin. So totems identify us, who we are and where we come from. And so her totem is the dolphin, and that's why that's why the story is called Buai. Her tribe is called Buai, means Dolphin People.
Well, I think it's a wonderful story. And I think what's great about this book also is that it's introducing readers around the globe to a culture they might not know very much about at all. In fact, probably very few people know much about the Torres Strait Islander culture. Tell us a little bit about that culture, a little bit about the people who live there, and what life is like.
You're right, Mr. Crawford. Hardly anyone knows about the Torres Strait. Even people who live in Australia don't know about Torres Strait or Torres Strait Islanders. So we're situated in between the tip of Australia and Papua New Guinea. So there's 48,000 square kilometers of sea and islands, 274 islands scattered across in the Torres Strait. And here a lot of us live on the mainland. There's about 65,000 of us that lives on Australian mainland, and only about 5,000 to 6,000 people living across 17 inhabited islands in the Torres Strait. So I was born and raised on Thursday Island, which comfortably sits between Wednesday and Friday Island. That's God's.
I was going to ask you that. Is there a Wednesday and a Friday Island?
Yes, that's God's honest truth. I think Captain Cook ran out of ideas for names, but it's
maybe on Wednesday he stayed at one island, Thursday another. Maybe it was an island hopper, probably. Perhaps, right?
Yeah, most probably. Yeah. But it's more affectionately known as TI, Thursday Island, to its locals. But traditionally, we have traditional names for all the islands that have been given English names by explorers. So Ti is actually called Waiben. And it's just one island out of about 274 islands across the Torres Strait. Ti is actually the main administrative hub, and then you have your remote communities. But Ti was a very multicultural setting. It brought in people from all ethnic backgrounds from across the globe to come and take advantage of our rich resources like pearling and beach demur. And so that's why Ti was had that multicultural background. So I grew up being heavily affected by the impact of colonization on Ti. And so I didn't really know how to speak my mother's native tongue fluently. We just knew words and phrases. I actually grew up speaking Creole, which is a form of broken English, and that was how everyone communicated across the Torres Strait. So as I grew older and became a mother and grandmother, I wanted to learn more about my culture and our language, and I wanted to pass on that knowledge to my children. So I went on my own spiritual and cultural journey to get in touch with my true self. I really wanted to understand my background as a Torres Strait Islander. So the more I learned, the more I wanted to pass on knowledge to my children. And I documented my stories in published books like Bakir and Bi and Buai, because when I lived on the mainland for about 30 years before I moved back to the islands, I found that there was so many other young people who didn't know about their culture, who couldn't speak their language because of the impact of colonization. So that's why I thought I will use my craft and creativity to document everything I learn. Yeah. So all my storytelling, I publish in books. I have them in as conversations around the dinner table, and I encourage others to keep telling their stories, promoting their culture, teach their language, because that's who we are in our truest self.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful, and I'm glad you're sharing cultural elements with the world now in your stories. And I completely relate to how you feel. I'm Irish American. I've been curious about my roots, but so much of the Irish story was overtaken by the English. We speak English, we don't speak Gaelic anymore, that kind of thing. In fact, you go to Ireland, it's hard to even find anything made in Ireland. It's all made in Asia. So it is a lot of areas have lost their culture. So it's great that you have preserved yours in literature. I think it's wonderful. Have you thought about preserving this perhaps in film? What would you do if a top Hollywood director called you and wanted to make this a series, Buai,
oh my God,
Dolphin People?
That's always my dream. I always think about that. Because as I'm writing the story, I have this vivid, like very clear imagination. I can picture it as a movie, and I think that would be any author's dream, any storyteller's dream, to have a movie producer stumble across your story and think, oh, I can see how I can make this work. I think that would be any writer's dream.
Well, I can see how they can make this work. One, you've got the unique setting of Torres Island, and I think you have such an inventive, imaginative story. So I think you take the true cultural elements that you have in your story, and I think you take the supernatural elements you have in your story, and I think it'd be a wonderful series of films or a TV series for Netflix or Amazon or whatever it is. It'd be very, very impactful. The journey to retrieve the mystical charm Iriana is central to the plot. Tell us a little bit about what this represents in the context of Torres Strait Islander beliefs and customs.
So one thing I've always known growing up, it wasn't something I discovered in my later years through my cultural journey. Like everyone knows about, and every culture has, supernatural themes, no matter where you come from. We all believe in, something out there, and the power of objects and how they can kind of store power. So with Iriana, that was actually a charm, because back in the day, when our men used to go out hunting, they would take a charm in the canoe with them to go hunting for turtle, dugong, whatever. And that charm, if they put that in front of the boat, it would bring them good luck. They would come home with a good hunt to feed the families and the community. So that's one cultural belief of Torres Strait Islanders. So I thought I'd take that concept and put it into the story. So Iriana, just a made-up name, was a charm that was owned, the custodians of that charm was from another island, another tribe in the West. And someone stole that charm because they could see the supernatural power in it that brings good fortune. So they stole it, thinking that it was going to bring good fortune to their lives. But if that happens, if someone takes a charm that belongs to another tribe, they're actually bringing bad luck to themselves, because the charm is not in its rightful place. So that's what happens throughout the storyline in Buai. Someone took that charm, and then when he went to the island that had the famine and all that, it's because that's where he took the charm to. So this is how it all connects to the first book. So you can't read the second book without the first one.
Okay. And the first book is called?
It's called Bakir and Bi. So this is Bakir and Bi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can't see it. That's Bakir and Bi, and that's Buai.
Okay, yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful.
So it's called Bakir and Bi. Bakir was the name of the father, and Bi was a supernatural pelican that they came across in the first story. So so that guy took the bad guy took the charm, and that charm ended up accidentally was dropped on the island where Mar, Tam, and Lusig lived. And they thought, we need to take this back to the rightful owners. The mother could feel the power in this. And she's like, if we don't find the rightful owners of this, something bad will happen to us.
Interesting.
So,
and it's kind of a metaphor for the colonization of the Torres Strait, I would imagine, that people took what wasn't theirs. And it's time for the people who are the rightful owners to take it back.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Jillian has written a series of amazing books. The one we've been focusing on today is Buai, Dolphin People, and it is highly recommended. It's a wonderful story. It's a story of mysticism and supernatural, but also rich, true cultural traditions, and it will transport you to a land that you probably know little about, the Torres Strait, and I think you'll find it fascinating. Jillian, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much. It was so exciting to be connected to you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed our talk as well. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.